We got a battle of two SEC teams going in two very different directions here in college football. A 3-win Florida team looking to avoid dropping 3 straight, coming off a game where DJ Lagway was benched against Kentucky. And then there's Ole Miss, 9-1 overall, currently 7th in the latest CFP rankings. And ever since Billy Napier got fired after Florida's homecoming weekend, there has been one name floating around that all Gator fans and everybody in Gainesville is really targeting, honing in on as the #1 target to replace Billy Napier, and that is the one and only Lane Kiffin. So here's what Lane had to say about all that buzz prior to facing Florida this week.
I haven't even talked about it to them, and I hadn't had one of them. And I think I'm pretty close to the players where they walk by or they say something, like if it was on their mind, they'd make a joke or something. I don't think it is. I think that they're very focused on what to do. Again, I said it's a different age nowadays, like when I addressed it a couple weeks ago, and I certainly don't think it was a distraction since. We won Oklahoma, South Carolina, played really well last week. I just said, hey, this is kind of the world that you're in. You guys now are used to this where players didn't used to, these guys get way more of it than I do. They get calls on Saturday night after games from other coaches talking about next year and how much money they have for them and their plans for them and their system. So I don't think it's that big a deal.
All right, so let's discuss with our college football analysts, Chip Patterson and Brandon Marcello. We heard it there, Lane Kiffin saying, hey, it's not that big of a deal. The players are getting it more than I do with NIL, and they're getting calls week after week. From my perspective, as somebody who went to the University of Florida, I'm hearing that as, okay, I'm just trying to, throw out some distractions out there. Don't come for me because I might be the head coach of Florida come later. Chip, what say you? Am I biased? Is it a big deal to you? What do you make of all this?
So I think that Lane Kiffin is being fairly honest, and leave myself some wiggle room here, and that this is going to be a decision he's going to make later. Ole Miss has a chance to do something that is truly unprecedented in program history in terms of since we've expanded into the SEC championship game era, this is not an Ole Miss program that has once even played in the SEC championship game. The opportunity to punch your ticket to the college football playoff. So when Knox Kiffin, his son, and a class of 2028 quarterback prospects, the first thing that he says is, sounds like something he'll think about at the end of the year. I kind of understand the position of Lane Kiffin in that you have representation, you have a process, you've got a team that you're bought in on. So yeah, we can talk about all of those things regarding the future, but not until this season is done. So if you're a Florida fan, don't give up hope. The door is not shut. But if you're an Ole Miss fan as well, I think that you've got to love his commitment to the program at a crucial time for Ole Miss football.
Yeah, I just love that Lane Kiffin is being as open as probably he can be about all this. And like you said, Chip, he's just saying you're going to have to wait, because I'm going to have to wait to really sit down and think about this once after I get done with what I'm going to do here at Ole Miss. And maybe I'm going to continue to do so, but we got a playoff spot we're battling for. We're battling for an SEC championship game appearance. But also, Ole Miss has been working on a contract extension with Lane Kiffin for the better part of the last 3 weeks. And there's really not been much movement on that. And the reason for that is because Lane Kiffin is going to wait potentially here till the end of the season to make his decision. Now, of course, his agent is going to continue those discussions, not just with Ole Miss, but with everybody else in the industry to try to leverage some situations and figure out what he can get at Florida, maybe in LSU, and, of course, at Ole Miss. But at the end of the day, the only person who knows what Lane Kiffin's going to do is Lane Kiffin. And I don't think Lane Kiffin knows what he's going to do right now. So we're all going to have to wait.
All right. Fair enough. I understand. And Brandon, you mentioned it. Ole Miss, the position that they're in, they're fighting for a playoff spot. They're right there in the mix. The reality is very, very different for the Florida Gators. And I honestly lost count of the amount of interceptions that DJ Lagway threw against Kentucky. Heck, on the season, we can't forget LSU. Thank you for reminding me, Brandon. I appreciate you. Chip, how does DJ Lagway bounce back from getting benched in that Kentucky game?
I think he's going to have a good response. I don't think it's going to be bad leading to worse. We've heard from Billy Gonzalez, the Florida interim coach. He sort of, praised DJ Lagway for the way that he handled this. And honestly, I think for DJ Lagway, there's a bit of assumption that I make in terms of what he's built of, in that he's stuck with this Florida program and that he's endured all that he's endured to get to this point. So I don't know if he is going to be able to show us his very best football in this game. Most of that's because of the availability or lack thereof of some of the most important skill players and pass catchers. So I'm not going to declare that this is going to be a season high stat line, but in terms of a overall, will he respond well? My assumption is that answer is yes.
Yeah, DJ just hasn't been it all season. And last year, of course, he was near the top, if not at the top, at yards per attempt. And, Lane Kiffin mentioned that this week. This is a guy that was just throwing the ball downfield with amazing accuracy, and of course did so last year when they beat Ole Miss in the Swamp. But you look at his stats, there's only one game this year where he's eclipsed 10 yards per attempt. And the rest of the season's been very, very lackluster. We mentioned the interceptions, the 12 that lead the SEC, the most by a Florida quarterback in 4 years. But you also have to consider, as Chip alluded to there, he's lost not just one great receiver, but two great receivers, and they both have the last name Wilson, Eugene Wilson, and, of course, the big-time freshman that came in, Dallas Wilson, who had 3 touchdowns in 4 games. Losing those two were gigantic losses for them. And while the entire program was being overseen from a 30,000-foot view by people like us of going, well, they're just losing games. What's going to happen to Billy Napier? Who are they going to hire? We get lost within that, and we don't see the context of all this. They did not have a fully healthy roster, even defensively. They had bits and pieces, star players, elite players that would sit out a game here or sit out a game there. They never really were fully healthy, even at the start of the season. And really, this is a program that was sunk and snake bit all the way dating back to mid-August, I should say, when we first started hearing that Dallas Wilson's going to miss some time, and even back in the spring. Remember, DJ Lagway was dealing with a shoulder injury, and we're all asking questions about, is he even going to be available for week 1? This program's just been absolutely snake bit, and this is just a year where you just got to push through it, get to the end of the season, and then celebrate whoever is your next head coach.
Yeah, and I remember it was injury after injury with DJ Lagway, and it's all about responding to adversity. I've interviewed DJ Lagway. He's a really great young man with a good head on his shoulders, so I have faith. Want to talk about Florida's secondary going up against these Ole Miss receivers. So, Brandon, ultimately, what is your expectation? What are you going to be watching for when it comes to this specific matchup?
I need to see a pass rush from Florida. That's the number one thing. As much as we talk about the secondary, I want to see that pass rush get going once again, but that's a big ask, really, in this game, especially on the road. I also need to see this defense step up on third downs. They're one of the worst in the nation in third down defense. They've also been really struggling in the red zone as of late. I don't want to say that this program or this team or the defense has let go of the rope, but all their stats defensively have been trending downward since the beginning of the season. At one point, I sat there and was watching Florida going, they got a top 15, top 10 defense. Now they're about 50th when you average out all their rankings, and it's because they're just getting worse and worse as the season goes along, and you have to wonder about the mindset of this team going into Ole Miss.
I look at the wide receivers for Ole Miss, and Jacqueline, this is a very different passing attack, not just because of the changeover in quarterback, but so much of Ole Miss passing attack was just Trey Harris last year, which is understandable. He's an NFL wide receiver. He's incredibly talented. But right now, this Ole Miss passing attack is a little bit more balanced. You don't know who it's going to be. It could be Harrison Wallace on one given day. You could go all the way down to like the 4th or 5th wide receiver or pass catcher, Deshaun Stribling, to say that's somebody who can go get us 5 or 6 grabs. In total, you've got about 7 or 8 skill position players with double-digit receptions on the season. A couple good tight ends. Kejuan Lacey, also a good option there. So while Jackson Dart and Trey Harris was the A to B connection that was so fruitful for Ole Miss, I think what's tough for Florida's secondary is they've got so many more options to worry about this year.
Okay, quickly, guys, give us a game pick. Chip, where are you at?
I got Ole Miss 38. I got Florida 17. I do think we get a decent response from DJ Lagway, but Ole Miss is for real, and I think they show it in this game.
Yeah, I think Ole Miss hits the 30s. They win straight up, but I've got Florida actually covering that point spread, which is about 16.5 to 15.5, depending on the book you look at.
All right, guys, Brandon, Chip, we certainly appreciate it. Florida Ole Miss preview, and CBS Sports, we have you covered on multiple platforms when it comes to college football. Make sure you check out the CBS Sports College Football YouTube channel. You can subscribe right now by scanning that QR code on your screen.